Welcome back to the Writer's Block. I'm Jenny Carlson here in the newsroom at the Oklahoman, joined by Cedric Golden in the newsroom of the Austin American-Statesman. Hello, my friend.
What's going on, Jen?
Hey, just a lot in the sports world. As always, seems like we never get a break. So let's start with our lead segment. Cedric, we're going to talk about the Kentucky Derby. Here we are, nearly a week since the race, the big one in horse racing that starts off the Triple Crown. People are still talking about this race, Cedric, but are we talking about it for the right reasons? After the change of the winner, the legal challenges that have been threatened and thrown out, and everything that's gone on, is this good? What's your sense of the fact that we're still talking about a horse race, in a sports world that doesn't talk much about horse racing anymore?
It's absolutely great. When have we ever talked about the Kentucky Derby days later? I'm going to change the nickname of that to the most exciting 22-minute delay in sports. I just thought that was surreal. $9 million did not get claimed by people who picked the right horse. Do you think they're a little fired up? I know my cousin picked the right horse, and I saw him over the weekend. He was not happy. And so Maximum Security didn't get the dub, and they gave it to Country Horse or Country House, 65-1 underdog. I'm sure there are a few idiots that bet on that horse that are reaping the rewards today.
Yeah.
I was shocked, absolutely shocked that the stewards, and that's what they're called, the stewards unanimously agreed to disqualify this horse. I think, I know this is not another sport, but where I'm from, I thought that blocking out was a good thing. I thought that you could box out in basketball. You get the coach would slap you on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the Daytona 500 when a faster car wasn't allowed to pass on the final lap because of the block out. So that's where I'm coming from with that. I thought that it was, I don't know if it was a travesty, but I was shocked that it happened.
Yeah, I think even, horse racing, aficionados, people that know a lot more about it than I do, that's for sure, were shocked at the outcome. Obviously, it's never before happened in the history of the Kentucky Derby. Over 140 years that race has been run. Never has it gone that way. Of course, for a lot of those years, a vast majority of those years, there was no way to go back and look at video replay, at least not in the intricate detail that we have it now. They've been obviously recording it for a long time, but it might have been one camera shot or two, and the chances of getting something definitive. But as we all know, cameras are everywhere. Now replay is wholly different. It is interesting that it has brought horse racing into the public discussion, even at a time when the NBA playoffs are going on, the NHL playoffs are going on. People are talking about these other major sports. Horse racing has made its way into the conversation, so I guess no publicity is bad publicity. But Cedric, I still wonder, is this again our country's fascination with instant replay? We can slow everything down to a millimeter, a nanosecond. Instant replay didn't save anything from the right thing being done in that NFL playoff game with the Saints back in the wintertime. Instant replay can't save us from everything, Cedric, but I guess it just goes to show that we're an instant replay society. We want to make sure. I know the rules are there for a reason, but man, you're right. 22 minutes took a long time for them to look at this, to make a decision. But I don't want any 22-minute delays in any football games I'm covering anytime soon. I can tell you that much.
Man, ain't that the truth? And I was just like, we're in a get it right type of society. We have the science, we have the technology to get it right. But sometimes you can overthink things, and I just wonder if there comes a time when you have to let the athletes be the athletes, Jen. Mm-hmm. And this horse was better, looked better, was fast, and they saw something. And let me be clear on this. I'm not a horse racing aficionado.
Yeah.
I watch one or two races a year, and that's one of them. So they got it right. According to them, the Maximum Security people are up in arms. Imagine all the money that they lost, not only the $3 million purse,
right.
Jen, They lost all those expensive breeding costs. Do you want her to get knocked up by a Kentucky Derby winner, or do you just want a regular old horse? That's what they pitch
Yeah,
after a Derby
that's
winner
right.
wins the Derby. Then it's time to go get busy and go get paid. Maximum Security might still command very lucrative breeding fees, stud fees, but it's not Kentucky Derby fees
Yeah.
because he did not get the win.
Well, and I think too, it's that while the publicity is there right now for horse racing, maximum security, easy for me to say, they've decided not to run the Preakness. Obviously, had they won the Kentucky Derby, as the finish initially was, they likely run. So, a lot of people saying that, the winner, probably not a Triple Crown worthy horse, probably not going to be there, although, finished second in the Kentucky Derby, so maybe a better horse than we think. It will be very interesting to see how this all plays out for horse racing as the Triple Crown races continue. Do we maybe have a Triple Crown runner in the making? Will that make people feel better about what happened at the Derby? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see those races upcoming in the next few weeks here. I'm sure people will be watching that a little more closely maybe than they had in the past after what happened down there in Louisville. All right, let's go segment 2. Let's go to must-see TV, Cedric. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Lots of great stuff going on, but there's already one team on to the conference finals. That's the Milwaukee Bucks, and one Giannis Antetokounmpo leading them.
Say that one more time.
Yeah,
Jen.
no, I'm not going to risk it, but we know him as the Greek Freak, and he is amazing, Cedric. Milwaukee to the Eastern Conference Finals. What a great story.
You know what? And probably still the most overlooked team in the playoffs. We don't get to see him that much on television. Golden State and the Boston Celtics and the Houston Rockets, they get more pub than the Milwaukee Bucks. But when I tell you that's a squad and Giannis is leading the way, Eric Bledsoe, the point guard, is great. Chris Middleton, the former Aggie, doing work.
Yeah.
They just got Malcolm Brogdon back. They are poised to come out of the East. They don't want to listen to the people that believe that it's all about Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors. No, I think Milwaukee has an excellent chance because they have the best player in the playoffs right now. He is playing otherworldly basketball, getting it done old school fashion, a big guy taking it to the rack, dunking, baby hooks, and he can shoot an occasional three.
Yeah.
When he starts knocking on those threes in regularity, look out. We're talking about an all-time great.
That Bucks squad sort of makes me think about Thunder teams of yesteryear when they were young and youthful and having fun, and it's really, you mentioned Chris Middleton, Cedric, and he's great, but he's kind of an unsung second star to Giannis. So really a great collection of talent. They get a chance to now cool their heels a little bit, wait for an opponent to come out of that other Eastern Conference semifinal. I don't know. I don't know if I think they're, even with Kevin Durant's injury, and we'll talk about that in a second. I don't know if they can beat the Warriors if they get to that point, but man, they're playing great ball. They beat a Boston Celtics team that had, designs on getting not only to the Eastern Conference Finals, but potentially, to the finals, winning the whole thing. They're out after, one series victory in these playoffs. So impressive stuff by the Bucks. And I mentioned Durant. Said we've got to talk about this. You mentioned Giannis as the best player in the playoffs. Until Kevin Durant gets hurt in Game 5 of that Western Conference semifinal, he was playing lights out. But now they're saying it's a strain of that leg, but some people were thinking it might be as severe as an Achilles tear. That changes things. Now, it changes the Warriors back to like the 2016 Warriors, and we know how good they were, but still, being without Kevin Durant, potentially a game changer in these playoffs.
Big time game changer. Kevin Durant, if he's unable to go, the Golden State Warriors are not going to win the championship, and I'm going to tell you why. You mentioned the 2016 Golden State Warriors. That team was younger
Yes.
than this team and deeper than this team. This team has Sean Livingston coming off the bench. He's banged up and he's not as good as he used to be. DeMarcus Cousins tearing his quad has really hurt the depth. Andrew Bogut hasn't been playing that much. They don't trust him coming out on screens against these Rocket guards. At one point, the Rockets had 5 guards on the court: Chris Paul, James Harden, Aaron Gordon, Gerald Green, and PJ Tucker. They had 5 perimeter guys out there at once. They can go small with the best of them. Golden State. I really think the Houston Rockets let a huge opportunity get away on Wednesday night, because they could have gone up 3-2, needing to just win one of two. Now they got a whole serve at the house on Friday night. I'll be in Houston for that. I've got the Choke City column ready to go if they don't close this thing out in 7. So they had a shot. Durant, I don't think is going to play again in this series. If it's an Achilles, he's done.
Right.
If it's a calf strain and they survive this series, maybe, just maybe, he comes back for the Western Conference Finals.
Well, what you said I think is right, Cedric. I thought, after his injury, that became such an opportunity for the Rockets to win at Golden State, to really swing the momentum going home, and the Warriors suddenly thinking, we got to win the next 2, including what you would expect to be a highly charged atmosphere in Houston for Game 6. Now the Rockets, need to survive, need to win the next 2 to win this series. Obviously, I do think, it's going to be a challenge for the Rockets, but as much as anything, obviously everybody talks about the Warriors' offense, but last night I thought when the Warriors were at their best, when they put on that run in the first half and looked like they were going to go and hide against the Rockets, they were playing outstanding defense. I mean, the Rockets couldn't find a passing lane, couldn't find a driving lane. They went a very long time without scoring. Obviously, the Warriors can score in bunches, and they did during that stretch, but it was really about the defense. And, obviously Durant's part of that, his length on the perimeter. He makes things difficult, even if he's not sort of an elite level defender. When he locks in, he can still change the game. But I think moving forward, the Warriors are going to have to lean on that as much as any time in these playoffs, because, if Steph isn't hitting shots, we've seen him struggle. If Clay can't carry the load, if they don't have the shooting that they did in those younger years. Cedric, great point about how those 16 Warriors, it was a lot of the same personnel, but a different time in their lives. They don't have that shooting. They got to be better defensively. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Game 6 as this series points to potentially going a full 7. All right, let's go to segment 3. And let's talk about, in case you missed it, Cedric, a couple of fun stories that have come across our radar this week. The first being a bee invasion at the Cincinnati Reds Stadium. I don't know how much good baseball is happening in Cincinnati these days, but they've got a force of nature. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Yeah, once every few years, there are bees that invade a baseball stadium. Jen, we don't talk a lot of baseball on the Writer's Block, but full disclosure, I grew up a Cincinnati Reds fan.
Wow.
Back in the day, because they were always on television, and I loved Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, George Foster, Dave Concepcion, all of those guys, Tom Seaver. So those were my guys. So when I saw this story, I kind of go, wow. Finally, for the first time since Eric Davis left in the mid-'90s, there's some buzz in that stadium, because there hasn't been a whole lot to cheer about over the last few years with the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
I thought about some of the wackier things that have happened in baseball. Nickel Beer Night at Cleveland Stadium in 1974, when there was a big brawls in the stands. Just a horrible, horrible day in Cleveland. Everybody's drunk and fighting and rolling around on the ground. Or in 1979, 40 years ago, Jen, before you got here, Disco Demolition Night at the Chicago White Sox. when they basically ceremoniously killed disco
Yeah.
and they burned records at the stadium. I'm sorry, I was a kid then, but I love me some disco. Give me some Bee Gees. Give me a little bit of Donna Summer, some Gloria Gaynor. That was my stuff. So the Bees showing up was kind of cool. And like I said, finally some buzz around Cincinnati baseball. Unfortunately, the Bees left, and now they're back to being the crappy Reds.
Yeah, I was trying to think of anything sort of force of nature like that I mean, we all have been, in rain delays and all that sort of thing. I'd have to sort of go back in my memory banks and think about whether I've never seen anything like that. That's for sure. Occasionally you see the, stray cat or squirrel or whatever get loose. I think a few years back I was covering a college football game and there was a cat or something that I think that was maybe in Lubbock. For whatever reason, that's sticking in my head. So you occasionally see stuff like that, but thankfully never had a bee invasion. I'm hoping it stays that way for a long time to come. Let's stick with sort of another baseball-related, in case you missed it, story, Cedric. This one coming from a minor league baseball park. We have a minor league team here in Oklahoma City. This one in Connecticut, the Hartford minor league team there has decided no more peanuts. They're not selling peanuts or Cracker Jacks, because that has peanuts in it as well. No more sales of those from their concession stands to try to bring in fans with peanut allergies. And frankly, that's younger fans these days. Lots of kids nowadays, it seems, have developed peanut allergies. They're saying no to the peanuts, no to the Cracker Jacks. Cedric, I am all for baseball trying to draw in younger fans because, frankly, they're struggling to draw in younger fans. But would you miss your peanuts? Would you miss your Cracker Jacks if you were off to see Hartford's minor league team play and you couldn't buy those things?
Well, Jen, all I got to say is take me out to the ball game. Buy me some politically correct food and some water to drink. I don't care if I ever get back. Doesn't that just have a great ring to it, Jen?
It's
Peanuts
missing
and
a little
Cracker Jacks
something.
are in that song.
Yeah.
You got to have peanuts and Cracker Jacks at the baseball game. If you don't like peanuts and Cracker Jacks for your kids, okay, don't buy them. That's part of the fabric. What are going to get rid of next? Hot dogs? We're going to replace hot dogs with tofu. What are you doing? You're minor league baseball. Don't forget who you are. That is the worst idea ever.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've heard of some of these areas that, teams have taken to sort of doing allergen free. Like if you got a peanut allergy, you can set in sections A, B, and C because they're not going to allow that there. I think that's a great idea to give that sort of cover to parents who might be concerned about that. But it does feel a little bit odd. I got to admit, I eat peanuts at baseball games, but it's not so much because I love them, Cedric. It's more
you're at a baseball game.
and it's more because somebody else is going to pick up my mess. I mean, yes. If I throw the shells on the ground, I don't have to go sweep it up later. Somebody else, sorry to all the stadium workers out there, but somebody else has got to clean it up. That's a lot of why I buy my peanuts at ball games. So I'd be sad if I couldn't do that.
Well, Jen, I've got a great marketing idea for a national restaurant chain. They should put it on billboard. If you can't get peanuts at the baseball game, come see us. Signed, Texas Roadhouse. You can get some peanuts at the Texas Roadhouse. You can throw them on the floor.
Yep.
Look, here's the question I have. Who in marketing in that baseball minor league organization sat down at a meeting and went, what are we going to do to address the allergen population, the allergic population? It's growing by leaps and bounds. Somewhere there's a kid out there that can't eat peanuts. We don't want him staying away because he can't eat peanuts. Here's an idea. If you're allergic to peanuts and you like baseball, don't eat peanuts. Case closed.
All right, we know where Cedric comes down on the no peanuts, no Cracker Jacks rule. So to everybody in the greater Austin area, if you want Cedric at your baseball games, keep your peanuts, please, by all means. All right, That's it for the Writer's Block this week. Be sure to join us next week. We'll see you then.